Everyone, welcome back. Joe here again, ScaleFreak.com, coming to start the series of the rebuild of the Fizzo. This thing here started its life as an Axial Racing SCX10 RTR trail honcho, probably a little over 4 years ago, and since then it's gone through a lot of upgrades, a lot of renditions, and a lot of use. This little bad boy actually earned me the driver of the day for the 1.9 Adventurous for the first Canadian G6. So I got a lot of love for this truck, and I want to make it last as long as possible. Through the years, I've done a lot of upgrades to it, and really, this is almost like, hey, my first truck that I ever owned, not this one, but my first real truck that I ever owned. I wish I still had it. I wish I kept it up to date, and I wish I never gave it to my dad. But anyway, this is the one that I'll probably have the longest, and even eventually, if it looks nothing or doesn't even have an original part that it came with, it'll still have the original spirit in it. So this one's pretty close to my heart, so this one I want to spend some time on. So what I'm going to do in this series is I'm going to go through and basically rebuild the truck and show you guys a whole bunch of things that you need to look out for with your trucks, so you know exactly what to do. Maybe some tips, some hints, things like that that I do when I'm tearing apart my truck and rebuilding it again. So first, of course, you'll notice a few different things on this truck. There are some upgrades that you can see, some new parts that I've already done. So I'm not going to revisit things like these brand new wheels that have never been used, but I'm definitely going to go through some of the things like what to look for on your tires, on your foams, things like that. A few other things that you're going to want to have during this. This is a great tool to have. This is just a little Ryobi 4-volt drill set that I got from in Canada from Home Depot. They fit in the bits really, really nice. Great for pulling stuff apart. I don't typically use things like this for putting stuff together. I tend to like to use just a normal driver so that I can feel how hand tight things are getting. But with something like this for pulling a kit apart, it really will save a lot of time. I think these things are like 20, 30 bucks. They're not here for a long time, but they're definitely here for a good time, and it helps out. Put it on a low speed or a low torque setting, and get the job done. Of course, you're going to want to use yourself some good hand tools as well. Just as a tip or a hint, make sure the tips of your bits, of your tools, are as 100% as you can get them. You're going to be pulling apart a kit that's got some age on it. It might have some stuff locked or seized in. You want to make sure that you have as much of a grip as possible on a hex before you strip anything out. If you strip apart, you may be replacing more than you've bargained for. So get the best set of tools that you can when you're dealing with an old kit, just in case stuff doesn't want to come out freely. Of course, have a pad and pen, or a pad of paper and pen handy as you go through and you're removing things. Keep notes and stuff like that of different parts that you may have already seen were broken, or some different ideas that you have. As you're going, it's easier to write it down than it is to try to remember it later, so keep that handy. And of course, keep a manual handy as well, because as you're taking stuff apart, you may need to say, oh man, my cross brace, I need to replace that. So my cross brace is AX80026A. So, scribble it down as you're going through so you can see exactly what you need to remember later. And of course, if you're pulling something apart, you can make a mental note, even write in your manual. Circle the part, or just write a note as you're pulling it apart saying, oh yeah, I forgot, I have to trim this, or I have to seat this in, stuff like that. So always a good thing to have around all the time anyway, but definitely on the desk when you're doing a rebuild. Of course, bring your iPad or some kind of media device, because you're going to spend a lot of time sitting in front of your desk. You're going to want to listen to some tunes or watch your Netflix, or maybe check out a bench questions. So have that handy as well. And little bins like this for parts. I mean, you're going to be pulling a lot of screws out depending on what your system is for keeping things separated. Maybe put the front end in one and the back end in another. I've disassembled this kit so many times, I know where all the screws go, so I don't have a problem. I'm just going to put them all in one container, all the screws, all the bearings and stuff like that, and I'm going to go from there. And of course, just make sure you've got a collection of parts that you know you're going to put back in right away. You may be one of those people that disassembles 100%, or you may be one of those people that disassembles a piece, rebuilds that piece, and then sets it aside. So I'm kind of both. I like to disassemble some things 100% and leave it all for later. I'm also one of those guys that likes to just like do an axle, just finish the axle, set it aside. For this build though, I am going to disassemble the entire kit, everything about it, piece it all out, and inspect every piece individually, and then just start replacing and building it back up from the ground up again. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of showing you some of the things that you want to look for right from the beginning, make some notes, and go from there. All right, so as we start, it's time to take a look at some of the beginning parts, things like the tires that you can get off easily. I already know that the wheels are going to be really, really good. I actually just installed them, and I haven't even used them yet. But I do want to take a look at the tires. You want to make sure that all of your tires are still in great condition. I've used these things for quite a long time, and I know that a couple of these tires have some splits in them, and they do need to be replaced. I'm just going to try to find one of the ones to show you exactly which one it is. I noticed it when I put all the tires back together again, that there are some tears. Only on a couple of them, and I know it's because of heavy use. It's not because the product was faulty. I've been using these things for a long time, and they just got snagged or got torn up on a rock, something like that. So right there I'm looking, and I can actually see that there's a hole forming in this tire here. There's a couple holes, and again, it's just from heavy use. And you know, people KOHing over me and tearing a bead. There's some cut in my tire here, and they're still good. I could probably still use them for this whole season, and you know, I actually might. But this white wheel here, I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, you can see it on there. There's actually a cut in the bead. Now, they're usable right now, but these GCM wheels, they get a nice tight lock on your wheel or on your tire. So I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to order another set. I'm going to use these for now, but I know that later on I may have to rely on my spare if I'm out on the trail, so I'll keep that handy. So I already know I got to get, you know, Pitbull 1.9 Rock Beasts. So I'm going to keep that, you know, I'm going to do ×4 because I do want to get a whole brand new set for the season, and then I'll have them, and then I'll have those spares for a different truck. So, of course, next I'm going to move on to the body. Now, a few things you want to pay attention to when you're doing the body itself is, does it even need it? You can see that this thing is pretty dirty, but with scalers and stuff like that, Lexan is, I mean, it's good. It holds up really, really well. I'm always, and you guys have seen it before in my previous videos, I'm kind of a little bit of afraid to move to a hard body because I am going to destroy it. So in this case, I stayed with Lexan, but this is my original Proline shell. This was from the first pressing where they did have some concerns with the quality of the Lexan. So as you can see here, there's some tears in the back. It's coming apart and stuff like that. And so this is going to get replaced. Luckily for me, I already have this one here, so I don't need to order another one of those. I'm going to redo it. And of course, the important thing to remember is just keep the old shell so you can see where you did all your cuts. I cut off the whole bottom of the bumper. I trimmed up the wheel wells a little bit. For the winch, I had to cut a huge chunk out of the front grille. So I want to remember that. I also, for this one here, I actually screwed some holes in the roof for a lighting rig that I was going to put on it for when I was running the G6. But I'm going to make some changes through here. You're going to see me replace this shell. I'm also going to remove all of this cage back here and then make some changes with the Lexan that's back here as well. So inspect it. Make sure it's what it's still going to last for you for the season. I mean, the best part is we're still before season right now, so you've got lots of time to make the changes. So this one definitely needs to get replaced. Now, looking in the kit itself, there's a few things that you want to actually hold on. Shell, remodel. Shell. Perfect. All right, so when you're going through the rest of your kit, you want to make sure that you're checking some preliminary things because, again, you may have to order some parts. You want to check to make sure that just at eye level, everything works really well. I know these shocks are fairly brand new, so they're going to be still really good. They're still smooth, and just inspect all of the shock shafts just to make sure they're not bent and to make sure that everything is still moving smoothly. You also want to make sure you haven't lost any parts like the bottom spring retainers or that center coupler. Just make sure everything is still there. These shocks are all still good. I will go through and inspect them on the inside later and recharge them with new oil, but again, that's not something I have to do right now. But I'm still going to rebuild shocks. So making notes on the pad of paper, so I'm literally going to go through a checklist later Some of the parts I'm going to order, some of the parts I'm just going to go through with you guys on the video. So I'm good with the shocks. I already know my shock towers are going to be good on this kit because they are the Vanquish shock hoops that I installed on this. So I got no problem with those. If they were stock ones, you just want to make sure that the plastic hasn't fatigued it out, or it's starting to bend, or you're getting any too much slop or anything like that. Again, something for you to check a little bit later. But I know that mine are going to be good. Of course, depending on what work you've done to your kit so far, you want to make sure that your cross brace is still intact, because remember, your battery plate, if you run a battery forward setup, does screw into there. And in some cases, you can see here, I've actually had to shave out my cross brace to allow for the servo that I have in here. So just make sure that it's not shaved out too far, or that you still need to have it done. Of course, when you're pulling screws and stuff out of plastic, you want to make sure that they're not completely stripped out. I replaced a lot of the screws here earlier with something that had a bit of a wider pitch depth to it, so it screwed in the plastic a lot better. I actually put longer screws in it too, so that it held more of the plastic. So all of that stuff's going to be pretty good. I know later on I'm not going to have to replace that part, because I'm going to have a different battery configuration and a different motor setup, so that is moot to me. Of course, you also want to go through and just check a few of the things to make sure bearings are still good. I would check this transmission, but I know it's shot, so that's the reason why this truck was originally decommissioned. So I need to order transmission gears. Trans gears. Okay, so I'm going to get those because I didn't get that part yet. And of course, inspect your drive shafts and things. You'll actually notice here I have a drive shaft on the front, but none on the rear. So I do have to get myself another drive shaft set. I removed this one and I lent it out, and now it's gone. So, but while you're upside down, you want to inspect your plate. You want to inspect your axle housings just to see if you have to order parts right away. These things are really tough, so you probably don't have to. And of course, you do want to inspect your links, because again, these do wear out. Now, I'm looking here. See how much plays in that? That's because inside the capture balls, everything's been pretty worn out. Actually, if you look at this one, it slides right off the ball. So that's not even really holding the back end as it should. The links themselves, I know on this kit, are straight, but what you can do is pull them apart and roll them on the table to see if they wiggle or wobble a little bit. Straighten them out in a vise, hammer, whatever you want to do. They're pretty tough. That's what I had to do earlier when I bent one. But if you want to replace the ends, you can get yourself like another axial end, which is what I'll be doing because I've got tons of them. And then, or you can get yourself, I know some companies like RC4WD actually make metal ends just to make it even that much more stronger. So something that will get replaced later, we'll go over that as well. So replace link ends. Perfect. And then, of course, you want to go through, inspect things like your sliders. If you're using plastic sliders, make sure they're not beat up too badly or the screws aren't stripped out. I've got the RC4WD Tough Armors on here. This was one of my first ever upgrades, and they look great. I'll probably just sand these down and repaint them again just to give them a good finish for the spring. Actually, repaint sliders. Sliders. There we go. So give it a nice finish for the spring, of course. You want to make sure that that all looks good because it will be the outside of your truck. You don't want to give it a brand new shiny body and then rusted sliders, right? Of course, when you're pulling stuff apart, take out all your electronics early and set it aside. You're still going to get the servo and the winch off of this truck, and then just really, for the most part, completely disassemble. As you go through each step, make sure you check every single bearing in the truck. You're looking for a couple different things. You're looking to make sure it turns freely still, which is number one. It doesn't have any grit or any grime or any flat spots on your ball bearings. Also, you want to check for if there's play side to side. As your bearings wear in, the race will actually get a little bit wider or wear in a little bit, or the balls may get smaller. If you start to get play from side to side, that will jeopardize the integrity or the strength of the bearing. If you have to question it, replace it. This truck here has a full set of Avid bearings in it. You can order the Avid bearing sets. They cost about $1 a bearing. I'm going to be rechecking this entire kit. I will probably get a whole new set of bearings and use the good ones that are still in here as spares for later down the road, or if somebody needs one. Whenever you question a bearing, replace it. And of course, you want to make sure you go through your box, your electronics box, to make sure it still doesn't have any major nicks or scratches in it, because for a guy like me, I put my ESC and my receiver in here, so I want to make sure that it's not really easy for any moisture or anything to get in or stay trapped. So give me a second, guys. I'm going to start to pull a lot of stuff apart on this truck really, really quickly, and then I'll come back to you. So, yeah, so that didn't take too long. When you've got one of these guys and you've got some good bits, your truck can come apart. And I'm going to say this took me 10 minutes maximum 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less. A little bit of enthusiasm, maybe a little bit of Red Bull, and boom, next thing you know, your truck looks like this. Some people may look at this and so, oh my God, what did I do? But again, I know where everything goes. I know where it goes back together. All my hardware is well contained. Dirty hardware. But everything in here is pretty damn dirty. So this is where I'm going to end this video. From here, I'm actually going to go through, inspect a few of the parts, and just order a couple things. Make sure I have them on their way now that I've got it pulled apart. And I want to make a few changes. I've already seen a few things that I'd like to address or adjust, and get some new stuff in. So it's just a matter of making sure that you get the right parts in, that you have the right parts in your stash to get it done. And of course, I'm gonna clean all this. You can see that it's quite dirty here, and make sure that all the right parts are accounted for. I didn't drop anything. So that's it for this video, guys. I just wanted to show you how much of a mess you can make really, really quickly. I mean, really, I know rebuilding the truck is the end product, but I really think that the whole purpose of this was just to make a huge mess. I love making messes. But that's it for this video, guys. You'll see a whole series of all of this stuff to come. You'll see as we go through and piece by piece inspect and revitalize this truck, get it all back together, clean everything up as best as it can, replace any parts that need to be done, and make this thing into the next G truck. I guess my G ride, get it ready for that. So thank you guys for watching. As always, please remember to go ahead and like the video. It helps out a whole ton. Of course, you want to hit that subscribe button if you're not already, and if you are, thank you. And of course, comment below. What are you doing when you rebuild your truck? What are some of the things that you look out for? Or what are some of the common wear parts that you always have to replace? And of course, guys, share this around the community. This is going to be another huge playlist. I'll put the link to the playlist below, and it's going to become a pretty big project. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys very much, and have a great night.